Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Awash. I am joined for this love bomb chat by Mr. Fantasy Awash. Cue the Pitbull music for Mr. Worldwide. Yes, Evie, thank you.
I've got multiple things to say about that.
We're off to a solid start.
Yeah, I know. First off, in music, there's
This
at
is
least
this is a love bomb chat. I
I'm
remind
saying, well, there's at least four misters that I love more than Mr. Worldwide.
you. Who are they? Tell everybody.
Well, Mr. Abato, Mr. Tambourine Man. If we want to go 70s soul, we have Mr. Dream Merchant, who I knew
Mr.
her.
Tambourine Man,
Yeah.
that's who you are.
Anything is better than Mr. Worldwide.
Absolutely not. Nothing is better. Hello and good morning to you. It is very much evening where we are, but we appreciate you hanging out with us. So Josh has been on the channel for some pre-recorded stuff, but has not been on for a live. This is his first live appearance ever. So it's very exciting. But some people don't know that the channel started out as a podcast with you. So I'll let you tell that story to everybody.
I'll tell the story that won't then, get objected to.
That's fine.
So we started out as Fantasy Awash with Laura and Josh. There we go. We reviewed Rings of Power and House of the Dragon season 1.
And a few of Andor.
Andor's spectacular, by the way. According to Laura, I didn't have time for her.
That's correct.
And so it became Fantasy Awash instead of with Laura and Josh, just
and Laura. It pivoted to mostly books with a little bit of some other stuff thrown in, but that's always fine. So I always like to start my chats with talking about, yes, Rings of Power is what killed the podcast. It's not wrong, Evie. That is pretty much what did it, because
we had a bad cop, worse cop situation going on with Rings of Power. We had a good cop, bad cop situation.
I was worse cop. I turned on it first. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I had more vitriol.
Yeah. Ish. Well, either way, it wasn't loved by either of us, this is a love bomb chat. So get back on track.
I'm trying, but we're talking about Rings of Power. There is no love.
Hello, Sarah. So I always ask people, what is something that you have read recently that you've really loved, or that you are currently reading that you are really enjoying? But I know what you're currently reading and you're just starting it. So what's something that you've recently read that you really loved?
I recently read A Narrow Road Between Desires, which is a very short story. I think it's 230 pages, and the book is more of a pamphlet than it is a book, by Patrick Rothfuss, which is a short story related to his King Killer Chronicles series, which I love. That was a fun book because it focused on a character that might be of maybe 2,200 pages of King Killer Chronicles. Bast might be on 50 pages at most, and this short story focused on him, so I thought it was a lot of fun.
I always think of the cat Bast. I haven't read King Killer Chronicles.
I have yet to decide if the name is accidental or if there is a meaning related to the Egyptian.
A feline meaning.
Yes.
We'll see. Daniel thought it was good, even though he's still mad about it. I haven't read it yet, Daniel, so I can't give many opinions on it, but I'm going to take your word for it. It was just the lightning tree again. These are just words to me. They might mean something to you.
I chose to just read Narrow Road rather than the lightning tree because of that.
Is that part of the new collection? That is really just, yes. Pretty much, yes. I have not read any of these books yet, but
it's a strategy. When you don't publish something new, you just republish something old.
Well, it's like when all these people, when I say all of these people, I'm specifically talking about Sarah J. Maas, how she adds those bonus chapters to all the different stuff, which is a brilliant marketing technique.
So I know what the answer is as well, but what's something you have recently read?
ACOTAR. Oh my God, I'm living on ACOTAR right now. I'm just in my element. It's a new era. It's a new dawn. I'm having a great time. Josh has no idea what's going on. But
I know what's going on. I'm losing you to a romantasy series. That's what's going on.
It's then spread into all of her books, because then I read all of Throne of Glass, and I am on book 2 of Crescent City, and all of this has taken place since I think the 10th of February. It's been a very Caleb from Celebrity said the same thing. It's now a romantasy Awash. But you know what? I am discovering that I like something new, and by like something, apparently it's part of my personality now, and I can't escape it. So it's fine. And
Laura listens to the audiobooks of many of these.
I do.
And I'll say something, and there is just dead silence because she's got her earbuds in and has absolutely no idea.
It's a parenting hack, guys. If you are on like hour whatever of parenting and you can't take it anymore, earbuds in and listen to an audiobook, or apparently tune out your spouse, and it's the same thing. But it's fine. I have been lured into the cult, and I am trying really hard not to become their leader and just a member, because I am obsessed. It's great. I can't wait for more Avatar books. But what are other things that you really love, Josh, book-wise? What are some books?
Well, then, I mean, if we're going to start at the top, and it might be a bit mainstream, but A Song of Ice and Fire, favorite fantasy series ever. A shame it's ever going to be completed, but I do.
I think we'll get one more book.
I hope so, because he released some sample chapters of book 6 years ago, and they were. I really wanted to read more, and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I want to read this book too, Evie. It's on my list, so maybe we can buddy read it after we buddy read the Odyssey, because Evie very lovingly sent me a beautiful copy of the Odyssey, because she's been going through the Iliad and has been giving me updates, which has been really fun, and it is delightful. I would be tempted for free goat as well, and then you could do goat yoga, which always looked like the best form of yoga for me. I mean, I see nothing wrong with that, but Song of Ice and Fire, I knew you had ulterior motives, and I gladly accepted. So that was fun. But Song of Ice and Fire, you and I bonded on pretty early in our relationship, because that when we started dating, the 5th book had come out 2 years before.
Yeah, I think it was season 3 of the show was the first season we watched together while dating, and the book had come out about 2 years prior to that.
I think that's about right. And we would sit there for hours, and I'm not exaggerating, for hours, and theorize about this series. And in regards to the show, that's a whole other conversation. That is not a love bomb conversation, but we would just really...
5 seasons,
no,
6 seasons?
It wasn't 5 seasons for me. It was whatever. So I would get into the real nitty gritty of the prophecies. That for me was my super jam. And then we would kind of talk about it at length. But my favorite prophecy was who's going to be Azor Ahai.
I liked all the different characters. And for example, Tyrion's parentage.
That's super fun.
Tyrion's potential daughter.
Yeah,
with Taisha.
Yeah,
in Bravos or wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I that was always my favorite part of the theorizing that we did.
I mean, how could you not love Azor Ahai the most? I thought it was the most interesting, but I think that's fine.
Do you remember the end of the story right before he saves the day? What he does?
I mean, why don't you remind everybody?
He kills his wife. Hearing that you love a story where one spouse kills another isn't
it's really reassuring. I see nothing wrong with this, but alas, hey Brian, yes, the Saturday Love Bomb. It was meant to be yesterday, but I was dying on the couch from illness, so it is now today. But I still love that part of the story with Azor Ahai, because basically no one in A Song of Ice and Fire is good or bad. Quintessentially, everyone is a mix of both. I would say maybe Brienne is the only solidly really good individual.
There's people, I would say, there's definitely some people that seem to try to motivate themselves based more on good or selfish motivations. And there's shades of dark gray to light gray, but
Nothing says true love like murder. That is 100% correct. Evie.
Sam also, by the way.
Sam is also quintessentially good. If anyone else feels like there is someone that is 100% solidly good, hello, Britain, in A Song of Ice and Fire, please let me know, because I am genuinely curious, because I do really think it is pretty much
that turned quickly.
This is how my brain works, guys. It's mid-sentence and Brooke stops. I'm so out of it still, but Brienne's page. Podrick. I think Pod is also very, very good. Davos, but see, Davos is 90% good, but also has a wife that's just like in the abyss somewhere that he hasn't
also,
talked
there's
to
a
in a really
reason
long
why
time.
Stannis took fingers, and
There
it wasn't
is
because
true.
he was obeying the law.
That is true. My memory of Game of Thrones. I personally had issues with the second season initially, and then season 5 I had a lot of problems with. But
we both collectively thought that season 6 was sort of the last really good season that they did. At parts. I wish, in retrospect, of course this was never meant to be, but the ending of season 6 with the 3 coronations, or 2 coronations of the fleet, would have been a great end to the series. Sort of was.
Everyone would just do what Cersei said, all would be well. I mean, it really depends on what you define as well, Brian. But I mean, that's a different conversation. Comes from the show. I'm surprised you haven't read it, Evie. I feel like you would probably really enjoy parts of it. Bran, do you think Bran is all good? Because
It's hard. I'm trying to differentiate show brand versus book brand. But I mean, because book brand is what, 7 or 6. So it's kind of hard for him to be too bad, I guess, if it's like 6 to 9 years old.
So in terms of something that we love about season 8, and Josh will agree with me on this, the second episode of season 8 is one of the best episodes of that whole series. And the knighting of Brienne is a phenomenal scene. And yes, Brian, you are absolutely correct. Hodor, 100% a good person.
I think the second episode of season 8 was one of my favorite episodes. I think the music for every season, Rum and Delani, is spectacular.
Amazing.
The battle at Winterfell, while tactically pathetically bad, the visual of the Dothraki charging with the arcing trebuchet shots on fire over the head, the swords on fire, cinematically was probably my favorite shot I say cinematically, with television or
is that your favorite shot of the whole
It might be my favorite shot ever on
okay.
film, just in terms of the spectacle of it.
That's a strong claim. I feel like I have a very strong love.
You are not gonna like. I will love bomb Gladiator. The opening scene when it's the wide screen and the Roman the legions are marching and they're shooting their flaming arrows. Of course, there's a theme developing. I thought that cinematically was excellent.
I'm really happy you love that. But moving on.
that scene.
Yeah. I love. In terms of cinematography, I have a chat on this on the channel with Kyle from Read by Kyle about Battle of the Bastards. I love how that whole episode is shot and filmed. So good. Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
I said that too.
But we do love Game of Thrones still. We're planning on rereading it this year because it's been a long time for both of us. I think the last time I tried reading. I tried the audiobook for book 1 last year, and the narrator didn't jive with me. So we're going to do the physical copies and reread, I think starting next month. And we're debating doing a video series of our reread that we, every few chapters or something like that, do a breakdown and analysis of it. He did have longer hair and he got tired of it. It had been a few years in the making.
I also had a job interview. I'm trying my current employment. I'm looking to shift away from. And I thought that it would probably be a good idea to present myself slightly more conservative than having a man bun.
I was fine.
Didn't work out, so I ended up getting a haircut for nothing.
No, it's fine. I was thinking that our kid wouldn't recognize him because she's only known him with the man bun, and I was disappointed that she knew who he was and she didn't care whatsoever. I didn't think she knew
Disappointed. That's the word you
Yeah,
chose.
it was.
Okay.
But other
The
than that-
love bomb continues.
But another book series that was made into a TV series that you and I both really love. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I assume you're gonna say The Last Kingdom.
I am going to say The Last
Which,
Kingdom.
by the way, if you have seen The Last Kingdom, you know that the first season starred a few actors, including the lead, who had never really had any experience.
No.
The lead was a German model.
That was what they sold the show on.
And
It was not
the
great.
previews were terrible. I mean, the show looked amateurish and just bad.
Yeah.
And so one day we lived apart for a few years while we were dating. Laura was in Montreal and I was in Richmond. And I just randomly turned the TV on and Last Kingdom was on.
It sure
And
was.
I sat there and watched 3 episodes straight and called her up and said, we have to watch the show. It's actually really good.
Because we had been making fun of the previews for months because
so
it was
bad.
on BBC and I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. So every time we would watch Doctor Who, we would see these ads and we thought, God, that looks awful. And I guess it was watching the show that then prompted you to read the books, right?
Yes. I
Yeah.
did not know of the books or Bernard Cornwell, who I really enjoy a lot of his writing. It's fun. He's a fun writer.
So which of his books would you say that you like the best?
His series, oh no, it starts with the Winter King. I forget. It's the Grail series.
It's the Warlord series.
Well, both the Grail series and the Warlord series. There's three books. There's 3 books. I think actually one of the books is called Warlord.
Isn't it?
No, one of the books is, anyways, the Grail series. Don't hijack my thought. The Grail series by Cornwell is my favorite series, which is for him, it's a short one. I think his Last Kingdom series is 14 or 15 books, and his Sharp series, which I have not read, is 22.
Is that the American Revolution?
Well, it's multiple things. Like he's at Trafalgar.
Oh, is he?
He's in Africa. He's Britain.
A teleporter. Clearly.
He's a well-traveled. Apparently, he discovered the bullet train of the 17.
I mean, I'm fine with that. Daniel does not approve haircuts, but I mean, Daniel, I'm so sorry. I still haven't read your thing. I promise in some point in my lifetime I will, and I will get back to you on it. I haven't read those yet, but they're on my list. I read the first Uhtred book and I enjoyed it, but also in my head now, everyone is the people from the show, which I'm
sometimes that's easier. Sometimes it's easier to keep track when there's a lot of characters. For me, with Song of Ice and Fire, I started it while studying for the bar exam. That I do blame George R.R. Martin for my failure to pass the bar exam on the first try, because I spent more time studying a Song of Ice and Fire than I did.
Yeah.
The day before the exam, I thought, you know what, I'll get in a good mental space. I read about half of his books. But being able to, that was right after I watched the first season of the show. And actually, I don't love always seeing the show first, but with the amount of characters, being able to put faces to names actually helped. I am a liar. I don't recommend it.
I don't recommend. Oh man, but yes, that was one of my favorite stories when I met Josh, is that he didn't pass the bar because he was reading a song.
That's if I needed credentials, I got credentials.
That was a solid entryway with me. It was, hey, sweet talker, you know what I didn't do? Pass the bar. You know why? Game of Thrones.
Who cares about property law when you can talk about Theon?
That's true. I mean, so do you want to tell everyone your pledged house?
House Greyjoy, 100%. Theon Greyjoy, my favorite character. Jorah's a close second in the show, but in the books, Theon Greyjoy, 100%.
But let's be real as to who the best Greyjoy is, because there's only one right answer, and it's Victorian.
The guy that wears full plate on
a ship. So good. Charlie Kelly is the practice. I mean, that would be a really niche job, but I think that it would be excellent. I think that would be super, super great. You could do property law for the Erie.
I would live in the Erie.
Of all the places, yeah, guys, you can let us know if you are a Song of Ice and Fire fan or a Game of Thrones fan. If you had your choice of locales, in that world where you would pick, because this is the conversation that Josh and I had many times, even though our answers never change. And that is
Eerie.
And mine is
The Reach.
It's not The Reach.
Dorne.
You are so wrong on this. It's always Dragonstone. Always.
Oh, yeah.
It's always Dragonstone. Mountain and water. That's what I want. Josh wants to be in the clouds where no one can talk to him.
Exactly. I sit there and read George Martin for my bar exam.
Exactly. If the bar was going south, we should stop and see. That would have been amazing.
Cool fire alarm too.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. It's a rough world. I wouldn't want to live in it. I mean, that's totally fair, realistically. Maybe it's Tyrell or Dorne. Dorne sounds like a nice place to be. Dorne is probably second. I don't know. It would be between that.
The Dorne-ish seem like there's as long as you're
people, yeah.
But it's too hot for me.
It is way too warm. I would agree with that. But unless you're like right on the coast, but I do like the water gardens. The water gardens are so nice.
Well, they're necessary because if you're not in the water gardens, you're in the desert.
Exactly. But the way that Dorne is described is really, really great. I do like Dorne, but Dragonstone is pretty epic. But then also, I was so bummed when we watched the original series that we didn't get to see Storm's End, but then we did get to see it very briefly in House of the Dragon in a horrifying scene, but we still now have seen all of the major places, even though we haven't technically seen.
Have we seen Sunspear?
We've seen
inside
Sunspear, but we haven't seen it from the outside. I don't think so. Like, we haven't actually seen what the fortification.
And we've seen two different versions of the Eyrie, depending on what season.
That is true. You have seen two different versions. I think I preferred the first.
Same.
Yeah.
And the castle, the coolest looking one in terms of the real life equivalent, because it was basically filmed, was Highgarden. Because in Spain, there is basically a castle overlooking a valley, and it's always covered in fog. It looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. I basically live at the wall. I'm used to that from having lived in Canada for many, many years, but Brian lives in the Midwest, so that is correct. I'll take being too hot in exchange for not having this. I mean, that's fair.
Sounds great to me.
I think that's totally fair, Daniel, personally. But other than those two series, the most recent series, I guess, for you that you've read that you've really liked is The Name of the Wind.
Kingkiller Chronicle. The first 200 pages, 300 pages, which the first book, I believe, is about 900, and the second book is 1200, something like that. The first few hundred pages, I thought it was good. He's an excellent writer, but I wasn't really into the story. But once it really hit its stride, for me at least, that really shot up my list of favorite series. Which another one, sort of like A Song of Ice and Fire, that has had a pretty long break in between books right now. We're sitting in the middle of an abyss.
But that was not your favorite book that you read last year.
Favorite book I read last year was Lines of Alrasan.
Correct.
Which is my second favorite book of all time. Maybe my first. I don't know. Probably second. She got it for me for Christmas a year and 2 months ago, and
very specific, yes.
Opened my eyes to the genius that is Gavriel Kay. I think
we do like GGK
in terms of just writing skill and the beauty of his writing. I would say GGK is my vote for best author out there.
I mean, Lions is so beautifully written, and I've only read two GGK. I've read Song for Arbonne, which you haven't read yet, but then the one we've collectively read is Lines of Alrasan, and then you have read Sailing to Sarantium, Lord of Emperors, and now you're reading.
I also read A Brightness Long Ago,
right,
which has my favorite last line of any book ever.
It does.
And now I'm reading
Last Light of the
Sun.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Yeah, which apparently is a Viking age one.
It takes place in roughly 10th century England, the equivalent of within his historical fiction world.
Mm-hmm. Brian, are you reading that with anybody? Because you definitely should, buddy, read it if you can, because it's a really fun book to talk through, because it's so good. If people aren't really familiar, this isn't spoilery at all, but GGK does a really phenomenal job. It's almost, I would say it's historical fantasy more than anything else. And Lions takes place in Middle Age or medieval Spain.
Beginning of Reconquista Spain, so probably about 1000 AD. But each of his series, each of his books or 2-book miniseries takes place in somewhere within this historical fantasy world. Not all his books, but there's a series of books that take place within the same world. It's a pretty close analog to our medieval world with a tiny bit of magic and a little bit of different details.
Yeah, it's Moorish Spain, Evie, and it's described really beautifully. That was one of the big things for me for Lions, is that the setting just felt so immersive and so detailed, but not in a way that it felt exhaustive. Because I've read some other fantasy books that I'm not going to talk about them right now, but they get too heavily descriptive. But Lions was just so pretty. I missed one here. I read Tigana Solo and it was cool. I hope so, just because it is a really fun book to buddy read, and I missed this year. What do you think of Malazan, Book of the Fallen? We have not yet read Malazan. I bought it not knowing what it was. I went to Barnes and Noble a year ago and
came back with 2 stacks bigger than I can put my hands on the screen right now.
I just needed some books, and I had no idea what Gardens of the Moon was, but I really liked the cover and thought, that's a cool title, Gardens of the Moon. Done. And then got home and saw that people were like, this is a really intense read. And I thought, cool, I'll get to that one day. And it's been sitting there waiting to be read since. What did you think, Brian? Obviously, I assume good if you're saying it's a great book, but we both want to read it at some point. We just haven't really gotten around to that yet.
I think for the way I'm going through books so far, it's probably going to be the end of this year. Beginning of next year, I'll get to it.
I was thinking it would be this year, but that was before I fell into my romantasy era. So who knows? I might never read another kind of book again. But I feel like at some point I'm going to run out of all the romantasy books that there are, and then I'll have to return. But it'll be just fine. Heavily inspiration.
Byzantine and Fire. Ooh, I have to look. I do not know KJ Parker, but I do love me some Byzantine Empire, so I'll look that up.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. I think that's the perfect time to read Malazan. I hear it's a really light read. So.
Oh yeah, just breeze through it in the afternoon.
Exactly. But why don't you tell us about more books that you really love and other stuff that you love, Josh?
One thing I love is The Expanse.
We're
going to dip our toe in the sci-fi waters.
Sure.
But I love the show. Mrs. Fantasy Awash doesn't quite share my view on the show, but I'm hopeful that she will enjoy the books when she reads them. But I thought the books were a lot of fun. The pacing and the timing of the books were excellent. And
rolls up sleeves. Yes, I know you and Alan, KJ Parker, but you are free to tell him. Yeah, it is dense reading. That's what I've been told. What did Mr. Fantasy? So this is a fun story. When we started dating, Josh and I had known each other for a few years already. I think it was close to 4 years.
4 years,
yeah. And I told him if we were going to be in a relationship, he had to read American Gods and like it.
So I read American Gods and I liked it. Now I thought that American Gods, I'm not a big fan of fiction that takes place in the modern world. Urban fantasy, anything after maybe like 1900 for me. But I enjoyed the fact that Gaiman was not afraid, which he's not. I mean, it's Neil Gaiman. He does it in all his work. He wasn't afraid to be a little different, be a little weird with stuff. Have some mysteries that floated out there for a while. He didn't have, not everything had to be answered immediately. And I thought the story was fun. And I thought it was a very interesting concept. So while it wasn't my favorite book I've ever read, I liked a lot of aspects of it. And I thought it was a very good read.
Who was your favorite character in American Gods?
Oh, well. Mr. World.
Of course it was. Mr. Worldwide, clearly. No, it's Wednesday. Wednesday's the best character. But no, American Gods it was fun when he read it because I had read it a few years earlier and I got to experience it through your reading it again. And then when we got married, not long after that, I reread it again and was like, oh yeah. And I just kept telling him all the things that I loved about it again, even though Josh had moved on. Have you read Sun Eater? We have not read Sun Eater. We have not, but I've heard really good things. Read The Folding Knife. It's a standing alone, and it is a great place to start with KJ Parker. Speaking of Alan, that's great. I always like when people like books. I think she is referencing you're not liking stuff after the year 1900. Favorite character in American Gods? Is it really Mr. World?
I'm a sucker for bad guys.
You like Anubis though.
Oh, I do like Anubis.
Yeah. What? Evie.
I've only read one. Right.
Yeah, which
I started. So American Gods. If you're gonna start with Gaiman, I think American Gods. Oh, and the Norse mythology book, but that wasn't really like. I mean, he embellished stories and made stories, but it was not obviously he didn't invent Norse mythology. So
no. Mr. World is the leader of the new gods in American Gods. So I was joking. I see. Okay, I hope so. Yeah, you haven't really read much Neil Gaiman. We'll have to remedy that because
I try.
I love Neil Gaiman. But not everyone has to love Neil Gaiman, but we are going to see Neil Gaiman in July.
For the second time.
Which I am very excited for. I get really, really excited when I see Neil.
Mrs. Fantasy Awash, whenever she sees someone on the TV or in person with Neil Gaiman or his name is mentioned, she is very free with her how much she loves that other male person.
I love him so much. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a lot of crushes that if I was in the picture, you'd be chasing after.
But who's my main squeeze?
Ronnie Harrison.
Oh, I do love me some Ronnie Harrison, but no, my historical squeeze, I guess.
Oh gosh.
Which I want Josh to read.
When we saw the Prima Porta, which is the famous statue of Augustus in the Vatican, was it?
It was in the Vatican.
She started shaking and crying. I had to take the pictures because she couldn't hold the camera still.
I couldn't now. I was very overwhelmed. But Josh can attest to this. If I am basically on a 10 scale, if I'm like a 9 or 10 or a 1 or 2, I'm crying. It's either because I'm so overwhelmed.
Yeah, but if you're on a 10 scale of people you want to marry, I'm like at 7, and Augustus is a 10.
I do love Augustus very, very much, and I'm excited for Josh to read Augustus by John Williams because
that
was one of my favorite books last year and ever. Just because I think it's the best historical fiction I've read, which is so good, guys. If you haven't read Augustus, what is this the same to, Evie? Is it that you also want to marry Augustus? Because I am fine with that. We have not been to Nashville.
No, I have not.
So explain to me what this is. Because now I'm curious. Yes, this is exactly it, Evie. Like, that's exactly it. I'm either too overwhelmed with joy or I'm too overwhelmed with sadness, and it just comes out in tears and I can't control it. So it's not great, but Ask Gaiman. I love him so much.
That's not a
what is it?
On him.
How many lame jokes he got
to
about
attack on the neophytes that probably
yeah, I guess. What have I missed here? She was exactly, that would be great. We did it too, actually. We really loved his masterclass, but we thought it was very, very good. But yeah, Augustus was definitely one of my top reads last year. So it was built to celebrate. Okay, but like, is it just a Parthenon?
A lot of stuff. I mean, think about like in the South, there's a lot of stuff that is. Yeah.
That's key.
It wasn't used as a ammunition depot by the Ottomans and got blown up in the.
I have strong feelings about that, but that's fine.
Well, it was a fact. What that happened to the?
I know,
Parthenon.
but I have strong feelings about historical places being really used, so it's fine. What would you say is the best historical fiction you've read?
Best historical fiction I've read. What historical fiction have I read?
That's a good question. Have you read much historical?
Well, I mean, a lot of the Cornwell stuff.
Cornwell stuff is all really.
He kind of crosses the line between fantasy and historical fiction, depending on the book. But it's probably got to be one of the Cornwell series.
The Saxon Chronicles, I would think.
Agincourt, maybe.
You think that's better than Uhtred?
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Uhtred, Son of Uhtred.
If we're selecting one Uhtred book, Uhtred, Son of Uhtred, then that would probably win out if we're looking at the series versus his standalones, I'm probably going to say Agincourt.
Here's a fun story about the name Uhtred, guys.
Is it the one with your mom?
It sure is. We loved that show so much. And then Josh went and read all the books. I hadn't read them at that point, but we knew we were gonna have a baby, and we were talking about names for said child, and we would never have named this child Uhtred, but Mike convinced my mom that it was our top choice name, and she kept freaking out. She's like, it rhymes with putrid, and every time.
Because that's the only problem with
That's the only issue with this name. But we still thought Uhtred was a great name, and Uhtred, son of Uhtred, is an excellent character. But he's not my favorite character from that book. It's Finan. I love Finan so much, or that series, but that's fine. Memphis had a pyramid. Tennessee apparently has like all the stuff. So
it's a lot of people with a lot of money down there.
Mm-hmm. I know, Evie. But Josh, I don't think knows what this book is. So if you can explain to him what it is, maybe you can convince him to read it. But I don't know.
I know it exists.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't know anything. I don't know the plot, but I know.
Is it because I told it to you and that Evie told me I should read it?
I believe so, yes.
That's entirely possible.
All right. So we've gone through a lot of my favorites. But
yeah, because you're the guest. Okay. People know generally my stuff.
Okay. So all right, so we're rapid fire. What's next? Favorite textbook?
Oh, Mary Beard.
Okay.
Without question. The Roman Triumph, Mary Beard.
Introduction to Astronomy, my professor Michael Seeds, who I took the class with.
There you go. Because that's what you guys came here for. The textbook information, quite literally. But okay, what are your questions? Go ahead.
Okay. What is your favorite singular fantasy book?
I can't pick one.
Well, what's the point of me asking a question?
I mean, that's Sophie's choice. I can't pick just one. That's terrible.
Okay, so Sophie's choice. So let's say there's two.
Okay. Favorite fantasy book of all time.
We're starting with the easy ones.
This is so easy. Okay. I really loved Clash of Kings when I read it, which I know is the controversial take of all of the Song of Ice and Fire books. That was my favorite. And I really loved Words of Radiance when I read it last year.
I thought you were going to talk about, I know you're going to say Words of Radiance.
I did really love Words of Radiance.
The Sarah J. Maas of 2023 for Laura was
Brandon Sanderson. That is correct.
And there's a way that she has going about life that I will say is that if she is reading a book she likes, I will know about that book because that is the sole point of the conversation.
I haven't told you that much about Avatar.
You've told me enough.
What have I told you?
You've told me individual. Okay, I guess you haven't told me
said much about Avatar. This is a lie. I know. I saw this today, and I was very excited. I knew she was really gonna love that book, though. That makes sense for the stuff that she loves. So that's been really good. Chess is going well. And this is a love bomb chat, so we can't answer Josh's portion of that question.
I really enjoyed the first 2/3 of Elantris, and I really enjoyed the middle, like 70 to 85% through the way of Warbreaker.
And that was that. What else have I missed here? Headaches. Oh no, we gotta keep the Spirit Cuts Through Water chat going. You and Alan are leading that train.
I'll be the caboose on that.
But yeah, I'm a binger with reading, which you're not really a binger.
I would like to be, but
would you?
Yeah, but it's just I don't have the time.
No, but
I can't do
jump from series to series rather than
the thing is I don't want to. If I like an author that has, it's the George Martin lesson. If I like an author who has a limited bibliography, which I mean, they all do to a point, someone like Brandon Sanderson, he's going to be producing new stuff. Someone like GGK, I've been taking really slow because, I know he's going to produce more. It's at a much slower pace. So I don't want to just binge it, and then wait 4 years for my next book.
Mm-hmm.
You will binge. See,
I binge
not
everything.
only, but you also you can do audiobooks, and a lot of people can do
yeah.
audiobooks. I can't do audiobooks.
Well, that's because you haven't tried it in a very long time. And he also hasn't listened to Stephen Pacey, who is the best of the best. So you also keep choosing unfinished series. I mean, that's true. It's hard to do it when it's an unfinished series. Exactly. Can't binge things. But the thing for me with binging is that with books, especially with TV, it's just what it is. But if it's a hefty fantasy series, especially like Stormlight Archive, I like binging it because all of the information stays so fresh in my brain going from book to book to book. And I know that books aren't published in that way, that they're meant to be consumed back to back. But for me, I like having all of the facts and all of the information readily available in my brain.
That meant not Stormlight Archive. That meant Cosmere.
Everything. It meant every book in the history of the universe. Yeah, I would agree. It does take the right narrator. For me, it definitely was Stephen Pacey. That's another series that we both came to last year and really loved, and that was First Law.
Oh yes,
so good.
We were talking about the series. I knew both of us were. There was something we were both really enjoying. We were missing. Yes, it's First Law. Yeah,
we love First Law, but our favorite characters are not the same. Tell everyone who your favorite character is.
Giselle Dan Luther.
From the beginning. From book one.
From arrogant jerk to slightly less arrogant jerk to even more arrogant jerk.
Would you say he's even more at the end? That was very high pitch in my voice.
Okay, first, and without spoilers, he is in a situation where he is enabled to be even.
He goes on a journey.
It's a journey, and the journey of arrogance is its own reward.
He's no Sandan Glock. That's all I'll say.
He's a bad guy.
He is a Theon.
I would have to agree with that.
Exactly. Okay. He's a Theon. So really, for all the crap you give me about Sandan Glock, truest of truths in my heart, he is just like your favorite.
I didn't laugh at the things Theon was doing.
Well, that's because he's not written to be funny in the way that Glockta is, and Glockta's hilarious. I would have gladly taken a whole book of Glockta walking upstairs. Gladly. It would have been the highlight of my life. So good.
So some of the minor characters that are explored in larger roles in some of Abercrombie's other works related to the First Law series, I've really enjoyed.
And they are
Gorst. 100%.
Rumor Gorst is amazing. So funny.
Shivers. I through the number of at first Shivers was not I wasn't a huge fan of him, but as his characters progressed through the second group of books, I would say Shivers is definitely on that list as well.
Yeah, when we read Best Served Cold, we both felt like, okay, this isn't the strongest Abercrombie work, but
certainly good.
It was very good. But I heard something. It was a chat between Bookborn and Leanna from Leanna's library, where Leanna was saying that if you go into that book and think of it more as Shivers' book than Monza's book, that really changes the perspective on it. And I was like, it does, because I prefer looking at it that way, because that makes me happier.
Casca's book.
I mean, Casca is amazing, but The Heroes is a 5-star book for me. So amazing. That was a standalone book recently that I loved so very, very much.
I made her some Valentines that starred characters from The Heroes.
And they were all great. I mean, other than Gorst, I don't think, well, I guess.
I mean,
there's one character.
One character was in it.
Yeah.
That we won't mention.
We won't mention.
It's the appearance is a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah. But all in all, still very enjoyable. Love me some First Law and some Joe Abercrombie, which you also have really enjoyed. Tell other people all the other stuff that you love.
Oh, gosh. You.
Oh, thank you. What's the longest novel you've read? You've read some Russian.
The version, War and Peace is just, I mean, that's the quintessential. But the version of Les Mis that I have is, I think, 1,500 pages. But of course, a lot of that depends on the print. So I'd have to go with the 1,500 version of Les Mis, which, I mean, Victor Hugo is the Emperor of Tangents. So it could have been like 600 pages, but it was a fun read.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's probably one of the Stormlight books. They're all pretty lengthy. Other than Way of Kings. Way of Kings, I think, is just over 1,000 pages, but then I think Rhythm of War is technically the longest out of all of them. So I would say Rhythm of War. Heroes is much better. I would agree completely. I really loved the narration for Best of Cold. Like with Abercrombie, I've converted that I only listen because Stephen Pacey is just chef's kiss perfection with all of his character voices. But that, I think, nudged it a little bit higher for me than it did for Josh. But we both collectively agree that The Heroes was a very, very good book. It goes without saying, Evie.
Now, I'll say when she starts producing good fantasy, then I'll mention her.
Dad of the Year. A Tale of Two Cities for me. Yeah, that's another long one. Trying to think like what else, and Leslie Miz is longer.
The last book,
Same.
The second book of Kingkiller Chronicles is over 1,200 pages, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a Lyndon Johnson biography I read a few years ago that was ponderous, but that was probably about 1,200 pages.
Something you asked for Christmas, which I did not understand. But I mean, to each their own. That's fine. I think the longest fan is Speaking Bones. I am looking to start reading Ken Liu pretty soon, and Don Quixote I've wanted to read. I read The Count of Monte Cristo a long time ago, but I read the abridged version. Are you reading this, Brian, in anticipation for the show next week? Because I am definitely going to watch the show. They are long. That is true. Oh, Les Miserables was longer, so that's the longest. Yeah, Les Mis is not a short thing. I guess that would probably count for me too, but I've read it in the French, so I don't know what that equates to. Like, I don't know if
I read its original.
I don't know if the translation adds words and makes it longer, basically.
It's probably, I would assume it's pretty similar.
Yeah. Yes, I am looking forward to watching the show, but I have not read Shogun. So also the Game of Thrones books, yeah, they do get progressively longer for sure.
I feel like with A Song of Ice and Fire, it's one of those things where with this initial book, the publisher probably didn't want. I'm sure at some point the publisher said it needs to be cut down a little bit, and then a lot of that stuff, once that became successful, ended up in his later books.
Yeah. Malazan, yeah, I think they also get longer the more you get into the series, if I'm correct on that. But even the show, I mean, yeah, it's hard when you're so attached to the original source material. I am very curious to do the Dandelion Dynasty. I think I'm going to read that with Christopher Navo. If you're not following Chris, go give Chris a follow. He's good people. But they are poetry. So yeah, I mean, if we're looking at like longest things, I haven't read the entire Mahabharata, but I've read a good chunk of it, and I've read the Bhagavad Gita. So that would definitely be for lengthy stuff. I'll get Brian to try Gravity's Rainbow. Yeah, it's hard, but at least they're getting 10 episodes and not 8 episodes, which seems to be the going norm with a lot of stuff. So what's something that we've watched recently that you've really liked? Is there anything?
There's been a real dearth of good fantasy shows for me. So it was a bit disappointing. So it's a love bomb. So I will love on the first 2-ish episodes, the 3 episodes of Rings of Power. I thought that the pacing they were taking a little slow. They weren't pushing the action, which I hate action 90% of the time. Battle of the Blackwater, that is how you do action.
So good.
Character development and story development. That's what action should be. But the first few episodes that were really good. But I would say in the fantasy / sci-fi genre, we'd have to go with Andor as the last thing that we have collectively thought was a really good showing. A good showing for a show.
But non-fantasy, what would you say? I would say probably Ted, right?
Ted Lasso, which we thought we were never going to like the show for 2.5 years, and finally turned it on one day. We're like, hey, this
And
is
now it's
excellent
pretty
show.
much on repeat in our house at any given time. We've got Ted Lasso.
That and All Creatures Great and Small have been the two things in the last year.
The dichotomy of these things is very
Well, they both
bad.
take place in England, so I guess that's
they do.
the tying thread.
We also love Mythic Quest and
Mythic Quest
What We Do in the Shadows. But we're comedy people. We are definitely comedy people. Ooh, I would like that. I would like that indeed. So Josh has watched it many times. I went away for a weekend and came back to Josh having binged.
I had never binged a show, and it was before our daughter existed. So I was there.
So you could.
So I had the Eagles game, and then I had nothing else to do. So I decided I was going to watch The Expanse, and I got through about 3 seasons of it in 3 days.
Yeah, and then pretty much as soon as you finished it, you went back and you rewatched it.
Rewatched it and read the books. I love the books, and I love the show too.
I tried the show twice.
Two
love 2 episodes. Yeah, I love one character in the show very, very much. What's her name again?
Avasarala.
But I have not yet committed to giving it another go. Yeah, it's nice. Also, this is how I feel, but maybe not for everybody. I love when I find something that's completed because then I can just keep going and binge it, which is great. When are you starting Long Price Quartet, Josh?
Soon, probably after the first, depending on how fast we go through Song of Ice and Fire. As soon as that's done,
and you'll do it before Dagger and Coin.
It's either going to be Red Rising, or Dagger and Coin, or Long Price Quartet.
Or
no, it's one. I don't know which, but that's been based on what I've been seeing on BookTube. That's been creeping up higher and higher on my list.
Mm-hmm. Oh, For All Mankind, maybe that would be a good one for you. I really liked season 1 of Foundation, but I have not yet gotten to season 2.
I also got I got you the entire Foundation series as a gift.
I haven't read yet.
It has been collecting dust, holding up a picture frame for the last.
It's right there.
Oh, what used to be holding a
Murray.
picture frame right over there.
Well, it's been here for a while. Murray, are you coming up? Hello. Don't do that. But we, in terms of sci-fi, I would say we definitely read it less than fantasy.
Watch it for me more. I grew up a Star Trek nerd. Hence the Star Trek shirt. But Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine were my 2 big shows when I was in elementary through high school.
Josh is obsessed with Next Generation. Obsessed.
I wouldn't say obsessed. I haven't watched an episode of it in probably a year.
If you know every singular line of every single episode, you are.
It's not about knowing that we used to. Our friends and I used to think it was a challenge. For me, it's not. That they would read, they'd get the scripts online, and they'd read a random line from a random episode of Next Generation. I would say which episode that was. And it's not about memorizing the line. It's about knowing the stories and putting that line in the context of where it fits in the 175 or however many shows. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that's just a good memory.
Yeah, it's
not an obsession at all.
Not an obsession. I like the. I'm an original Trek fan. That tends to be my
John. As far as I'm concerned, Trek ended for me with them panning out from Deep Space Nine with Kira and Jake looking out of the window. Though I know people like Voyager, and that's fine. It was a fun show, but yeah, the new Trek is.
Yeah. The premise is the Russians land on the moon first, and all of history changes. That's interesting. Yes, this is Murray.
Yes.
Favorite Trek show is
Deep Space Nine.
Okay. I would think it's TNG, but
Deep Space Nine.
It's the same for Britain. Either DS9 or Voyager for me. Red Rising is good too. Different kind of thing. More popcorny. I love a good popcorn read. And Laura is a Star Wars fan. We actually are both because my dad was a massive original Trek fan, and I grew up watching that and Star Wars. There wasn't really that division in my household, and your parents didn't really watch either.
No, they did not. So I held it down from the nerddom in my house.
Yeah, but speaking of Star Wars, because I had this chat the other day briefly on my channel, you can tell everyone your opinion on Star Wars. How would you rank Star Wars?
Oh, yes. I mean, Rogue One and Empire Strikes Back are 1 and 1A for me.
We love those two.
Yeah, and then A New Hope and Return of the Jedi fill out the top 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think episode 3 there is redeeming value within episode 3, despite the fact it's, overall not the greatest.
Cisco is underrated.
Cisco is not underrated in this household.
No, he's not. I know you were a prequel stan, Evie.
Speaking of Les Mis, the episode where Cisco and Eddington are doing their Javert and Valjean thing back and forth is spectacular.
Yeah.
And that is quintessential Cisco.
We also love Andor. Like we were saying, Andor was just such a really fun experience for us in terms of getting back into Star Wars.
It was a fun experience because unlike some other Star Wars shows or movies of late, I feel that really lean into the action over story. Andor wasn't afraid. Who was it that had the quote that your audience is as smart as you let them?
Amy Sherman Palladino.
Okay. So, and Andor, I feel like said, we're going to put an actual story out there rather than just a bunch of blasters. And we're going to trust our audience to enjoy the story, enjoy the characters. Mm-hmm. And I thought Andor was a really good offering.
Who's your favorite Star Wars character? Who do you love the most?
Oh my gosh. That's not fair.
Yeah, it is. It's my show. I can do what I want.
Okay, who's yours?
Yoda. It's always been Yoda.
Yoda.
Yeah, it's always been Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try.
I mean, that is a great quote.
I love Yoda. Always.
My old wrestling coach would say that.
My dad says it religiously. That was the quote I grew up on anytime I wanted to do something.
I would have to say Cassian Andor.
Okay. You heard it here
Might
first.
be.
Hot take. Controversial.
Actually, it's probably the guy whose name I'm forgetting, who has the big gun, is friends with the quasi-blind Jedi.
Oh, he's great.
I can't remember that character's name.
Yeah,
Rogue One.
He's just so good.
Funny lines and
doesn't take crap from people. Yeah, he's delightful. Yeah. Any other books off the top of your head that you want to talk about?
This is your show.
It is, but I'm giving you free reign as a former co-host.
No, I mean, I think that we've sort of covered my favorites historically, my favorites recently, and what's coming up.
So if you guys don't know this, Josh also really likes World of Warcraft. That's something
that's how we met.
Both love. That is how we met.
Which, by the way, if any of you play and are Horde, feel free to sign off the chat.
So rude. Horde are welcome here too. But we play Alliance. But we have played Horde as well.
We were forced to.
Yeah, it wasn't our first choice. But Josh's character of choice is always a Night Elf Priest. Always. Which is not my choice, but that's fine. It's a gnome. I was also a gnome lock to begin with, Evie, and then I switched over to a gnome mage and have been a gnome mage ever since. All is fair in love and Warcraft. That is 100% true. But what are you looking forward to reading? You think you're gonna love?
That I think I'm going to love Coin and Dagger. Just
Dagger
because
and coin. Is it Coin and Dagger or Dagger and Coin? Someone let me know. I don't know.
Well, that shows how much I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, clearly.
But I think that the writing in The Expanse was so fun and the pacing was so good that if that is similar, I know that's one of the two co-writers, not both. But if that's similar, I'm really going to enjoy that series.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and all the rest of GGK, which I'm going to read like one book a quarter, just so I don't rush it too much.
You can savor it. When do you think you'll read Arbonne?
That might be next, just because you have read it and I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah, that would be good, so I can finally say things, because I've been sitting on a lot of feelings, and not bad feelings, but I've just wanted to talk about it for a while. Daniel Abraham is better than Dagger and Coin. Okay, so there we go. But I think you will probably like those, just based on how much you like The Expanse. Because that seems to be a big thing for you.
So after you're done with the Sarah J. Maas's Cosmere, who are you moving to next? Where are you going next? And what were you
I have
enjoying?
the audiobook for Red Rising right now, so I might jump into that. I'm also probably gonna read more romantasy. It's just gonna happen. I'm thriving right now in my romantasy era. I've also reread 2 of the Avatar books this month, and I will probably read them again. Yes. At some point, I will give it a try. I'm going to be reading the Odyssey with Evie and Alan if he decides to ever answer us.
And yes, John, I saw that, and I cannot wait. It's going to be great.
Yeah, should be exciting. What did you say here, Daniel? Daniel Abraham is better. I see what you're saying. Okay. I'm going to start the Sharp books. Nice.
Ooh, that is a commitment.
It is a commitment.
I mean, Cornwell is a fast read, but at some point, the sheer volume of Sharp's book, what is it like? It's 20, 22,
it's something like that. Most people have said, though, that I've spoken to, that they think it's his best work, which I just wish I was interested in that time period. I'm just not. If he wants to do an antiquity series, then I'm all for it. But so far,
I would like to read maybe like the Trafalgar episode, or
but I feel like you would have to read them in order, right? You can't just do.
While that is true, I'm not sure they were actually published in like Sharp's chronological order. I think they do jump around a little bit. Or he wrote as a group and then went back and wrote an earlier group or something like that.
What would you say your favorite subgenre is for fantasy?
I guess I'd have to say historical fantasy, just based on the strength, how much I like GGK. But sub fantasy genres, I feel like the definitions of those do tend to shift based on who is defining them. They can.
Low magic systems or high magic systems. Tell us some of your favorite low magic systems.
I do not love when magic runs rampant, because I feel it's very not impossible, but very difficult for a writer to use magic to solve the problem while having fairly set that up for the reader that the use of that magic is possible, simply because it's really easy. And some books I've read will, magic exists, and then the big climax and surprise, I know the fireball spell, and they win the game. It's like that's kind of boring. But someone who does magic well while not providing an exact definition of the magic, even though the series wasn't my favorite of all time, is Robert Jordan. I thought his use of magic was not overdone in terms of using it to solve every single problem without at least defining that use before it happened.
Convince us why he should read Book of the New Sun, Brian. Tell us what it is, so you can sell him on it, because I think that's what we need. I'm currently beta reading. It's a cool series. That sounds interesting. You're not typically a superhero fan, but unless it's The Boys, we really like The Boys. Peaks Pros demands that you take your time. Josh is definitely a take his time reader. Between the two of us, he's slower. But that's not a bad thing, because I feel like you really immerse yourself in what you're reading.
I don't want to rush it.
No, I do, because I get so excited.
Oh my gosh! So I saw, by the way,
Pitbull.
I saw this little Pitbull out of Miami, Florida, is a singer. We'll call him a singer.
Yeah. Did you look this up?
No, of course not. You think I don't know? Like I have not been
You
living under
said
a
you
rock.
didn't know who Pitbull was.
I said just in the sense of
Uh-huh.
I didn't know Mr. Worldwide. I didn't know that
Okay,
exact
there we go.
reference. I knew who Pitbull was. I mean, good lord.
Yes. Fair enough. I would have to agree. If you guys have any final questions for Mr. Fantasy Lodge, please throw them in the chat.
Listen,
this is the last time he's ever.
If you want to talk about like, do I know like I don't know, what's a reggae, underground '90s rap, things like that.
That is true.
Leonard Cohen songs, I could talk about. I know those.
Hello, Josh. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Kyle.
I'll be seeing Kyle at Dragon Steel.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Which tickets go on sale for that? May 7th.
We already got our hotel for that.
Yeah, but we'll have to get our tickets for Dragon Steel proper.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward. I mean, not actually, like it's some surprise. Like I'm looking forward to meeting some of the people who I have seen, just because it seems like one thing nice about BookTube is it seems like there's a lot of friendliness, which is a little different from pretty much the rest of the internet.
He is. So, oh God, Evie, here we go.
Waiting for the miracle.
Leonard Cohen is Josh's absolute favorite.
Yep.
So, and if people don't know, he's from Montreal, so that was the point.
So you should like him more.
Yeah. I have questions upon questions as the story unfolds. Okay. We do like that. What is your favorite? Do you know an album that came out this year?
I'm trying to think. The last album that I actually, in terms of listened to or bought, or it might be back in like the 2000s, like the 2000s.
The last album I bought was Adele's 27 album. So it's been a hot minute. We're not super up to date on new music, I will say. We tend to listen to a lot of 90s rap in our house and a lot of then classic rock and ABBA because our daughter
loves ABBA to the point it's weird.
It is kind of weird. I don't know the biggest list in the history of the media, but you guys never. It's very accurate. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if we know of an underground rapper from South Dakota, but there's other places.
I'm just saying, I knew who Pitbull was.
Have you read his novel, Leonard Cohen? Have you read his novel, his
memoir? I have.
I feel like we got it for your dad, didn't we?
We did. I have not. He has. For years, I've been keeping my eye out for his first poetry book, which is really rare, and I've seen it once for like $4,000. And I was tempted, but alas, I did not have $4,000 just sitting around.
Leonard Cohen.
That has clearly gone into books.
Yeah,
other books.
I like Cohen as a songwriter a lot. You and Josh both. I think you like Pure and Easy. You like With the News. So I will like it because I love Pure and Easy. Josh is going to read Pure and Easy. That's
another on the never-ending list of books to read.
I think that one should be coming up soon because it's pretty shorter. But which album did you buy, Kyle? Because maybe we need some ideas. I listened to new post-rock. Interesting. What falls under new post-rock? Because we've listened to like weird rock that kind of comes through our algorithm. Gene Wolfe's The Devil in a Forest. That's a good title. The newest See There. Nice. That's awesome. Pure and Easy is incredible. Not yet. It's on the TBR Mountain. The TBR Mountain always does get higher and higher. But why don't you tell everyone what your favorite music is other than Leonard Cohen now that we're talking about it? What do you love?
Good Lord. That is a loaded question. I'd have to say early 90s hip hop would be on the list. I'd have to say specifics. Okay. Wu-Tang, obviously.
Wu-Tang Financial.
Okay, but like I don't know.
You love Outkast. You love Outkast too.
Oh yeah, Outkast is great.
Yeah, Outkast is a big one.
East Flatbush Project. For some lesser known stuff.
What is that game show answer where they combined the?
Wait.
Oh, in House of Games or whatever. What was the?
Yeah, but
I know, but don't you like that band too? What was the answer to that? This is so niche.
you mean
I'm sorry.
Humanly?
Humanly?
That's like saying, do I like Bonnie Tyler? Yes, one song
also
of theirs
do
comes
like
on
Bonnie
our
Tyler,
one
that is
song of
true.
theirs comes on our
Um,
algorithm.
Nice. That's awesome. Let me know if it's good because that would be a fun one to read. I feel like, hello. She reaches out. She reaches out. Awesome. In terms of new music, though, I'd say other than Adele
Soundtracks.
and soundtracks, yeah, we listen to a lot of instrumentals and soundtracks.
Yeah.
I feel like the Game of Thrones soundtrack is regularly on in our household.
Like metal is also
Mhm.
pretty big when like in my car, not around my daughter, since I feel like it's a bit intense for her at this point. Not quite ABBA. When you listen to like, Grave Worm and ABBA, don't quite go in the same category.
Goat Horn ABBA collectively side by side. Oh, what is that cat doing? Good Lord. This is what our daily life looks like. It's just asking, what is that cat doing? About
And
50
it's always
times
your
a
cat.
day. It is always my cat. That is true. Hey, babes can love metal. Yeah, they do. She loves music. So we listen to a wide array of stuff. But really, lately, it's been ABBA and the forever love of Ed Sheeran.
At least it's Ed Sheeran. I respect the fact that he for the most part, writes his own songs. He's really into the production. But good Lord, when your daughter wants to listen to the same Ed Sheeran song 500 times over and over again, it gets old. It goes old really fast.
It's fine. I've been slapping Goodbye Horses all week. I haven't heard that one. I'll have to listen to it. Another one that we go back to just song-wise regularly is Sound of Silence or by Disturbed.
By Disturbed.
Yeah, we love the version by Disturbed. That's something that we will regularly just be like, play this.
Our daughter is moving on to another Swedish group, and she's now going into Ace of Base.
Which is
we're entering the 90s with her now.
I'm so excited because the 90s is my favorite. I've been enjoying power metal playlist during work. Nice. Try August Burns Red if you want some really good, like to get you through work music.
Depending on what you're doing.
That song was great live. Which song specifically? I Saw the Sign by Ace of Base, or was it a different song? Exactly. I Saw the Sign. So good. But I love so much Ace of Base. And Josh, by extension, has learned to really like it.
Oh, I liked Ace of Base before
yeah.
you.
I've made you more into an 80s convert, though.
Yeah, but Ace of Base is 90s.
No, I'm saying in general, though. Like, yeah, that's really been my contribution to our relationship is the love of the 80s because I love the 80s and they're excellent.
And Bob Marley too, obviously, is on my list of musicians.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny. Goodbye Horses from Silence. A good way to start your week. Silence of the Lambs. Winter Sun has an instrumental version of their albums. Highly recommend. Interesting. I will look that up because we really do love a lot of instrumentals. We also, when I was doing my undergrad, Josh knows every line in Braveheart.
Again, it's just memory more than obsession.
Every line. So I hadn't watched Braveheart.
That incredibly historically accurate movie.
You know what? I'll watch Braveheart so Josh and I can talk about it. And I fell in love with the soundtrack. So we listened to that soundtrack
James
pretty
Horner,
regularly too. I think
it
is James Horner. And then the Battlestar Galactica soundtrack.
Oh my gosh. Bear McCreary is spectacular.
Amazing. And he also did the Outlander soundtrack, which so good because it also has Scottish sounds.
By the way, Battlestar Galactica, spectacular series.
That's something we can talk about. You love the new Battlestar Galactica.
100%.
But what do you think of the ending of Battlestar Galactica?
Much like Game of Thrones, I feel like perhaps if it ended a little before the actual ending, it would have been better.
Yeah, we Josh had me watch New Battlestar when we started.
The first 2 seasons spectacular.
What about Beats?
What's that cat doing?
I have no idea.
What is that cat doing?
Yeah, I don't know. Which Bears Beats Battlestar Galactica? Is that what you're referencing, Kyle? The creator of ESG.
Oh. Okay. Well.
Ronald Moore? Ronald D. Moore? Is that who it is? Because he's also supposed to be adapting Avatar.
Our worlds are about to collide.
Yeah, it's not great. Yes, of course. Bears bees, Battlestar Galactica, 100%. But Fat Apollo is something that will live on in our household forever from Battlestar Galactica. But I really loved the first season of that show.
The first 2 seasons for me were excellent. When they were on Cobol for about in the middle of the first or beginning of second season, it was when it hit its peak for me.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting about Ronald Moore. So we'll have to look at that because I didn't know he was doing that. I just thought he was doing all Outlander stuff right now, but apparently he's not. So,
well, he's doing Outlander, ACOTAR.
I hope he gets to doing ACOTAR because I've only read the books less than a month ago, but I'm tired of waiting. Get the show ready. What are your feelings on adaptations? Like, do you want things to be adapted, or are you okay with things not being adapted?
Adaptations versus remakes. I can't stand remakes except for Dune, like
movie
1984, 86 movie Dune versus current movie Dune. We really enjoyed current movie Dune.
We loved it.
Adaptations. Listen, if you're going to be, as long as you're true to the source material, I'm fine with it. If it's something where you're just slapping the name, what's that? The Jordan series. What did they call it? Wheel of Time. Well, I didn't know if it was like Rings of Power or something like that.
No.
But like Wheel of Time, they put the name on it, then tell a completely different story. Like that's not an adaptation. That's just trying to get a fan base to tune in to sell advertisement.
Jessica. I think she's gonna get her own show.
But I'm fine with I enjoy adaptations as long as they're true to the source material, or at least within reason of the medium that they're telling the story on.
Is the art form you're referencing cinema? Like, is that what you're saying is exhausted? Movies seem cheap. Yeah, I agree that
there's so little it seems like there's so little creativity now compared to, let's say, the 90s, that everything is either a remake of an old movie or it's an adaptation of something that already exists, which, again, fine from my perspective if you want to do that, but there's not that much that's brand new.
In terms of your favorite adaptation, what would you say that is?
If we are outside of the fantasy genre,
sure,
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
All right.
I think that movie is spectacular. I think
more so than Lord of the Rings.
I would say if we're going back into the fantasy genre, the first season of A Game of Thrones versus the book A Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I would say that would be the best adaptation for me.
It seems to be all about aesthetic nowadays. A lot of it is about aesthetics. I would agree.
It sort of falls in the same thing. I just always feel that spectacle overtakes story and character development and dialogue and drama and everything else that's good. A lot of times it's just you want the explosions, and so you have 50 of those between one-liners.
So would you say that you have become a more plot-driven reader or a character-driven reader? What do you want from a book?
I would say both, obviously. But if I had to choose, as much as I love Joe Abercrombie and his character work, I would rather have a plot-driven book more so than a character-driven book.
I'm character-driven, 100%.
It depends on the author, though.
Characters.
It depends on the author.
It can, but who would you say, other than Joe, has your favorite character work?
Martin.
Yeah.
It has to be. There's so many because the characters are different. Now, granted, the children who are age 6 talk like 20-year-olds, but and there's stuff like that, but.
It's not perfect beat for beat perspective, but I like to call it a complementary adaptation since Denis Villeneuve explored the themes of the story. Yeah, I thought he did a very good job personally. Check out the album Robin Rainbow Goblins. That is a phenomenal name. That sounds good. Character-driven novels have a plot. When you mean plot, you really mean action, right? Yeah, basically. It's like, is it more your grand epic thing that's going on more than characters?
Then I'm changing my answer to characters. Then if it's more of this small, I would always choose small scale over large scale. Everything else being equal.
Would you say that A Song of Ice and Fire is small scale though? Because I would think it's large scale.
I'd argue
it's both. Actually,
it's both. I would argue more small scale because any individual chapter, the chances that something big is happening is very low.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like you had maybe a few chapters in Battle of the Blackwater and the Red Wedding. Other than that, not much big happens directly within the chapters.
Mm-hmm. Used to prefer TV series. Yeah, I'm hit or miss on this because we love Lord of the Rings. Like
the extended versions.
The extended versions are
which I'm sure talking to this group, everyone has watched the extended versions, but especially the second movie, things don't make sense in the theatrical release, and it just doesn't.
In the third movie?
Second, in Two Towers,
I think
everything was Sean Bean.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Sean Bean that gets cut out of the second one. Extended editions or bust. I agree, but I will say there is certain shows or books that I feel like can only really be done if they're done over 10 hours or so, or 15 hours or however many hours. Like it's just, I need more than an hour and a half sitting there just to get my full experience out of it.
And yes,
multiple micro scale plots allegedly have micro scale implications. Yeah. Arrival was, I missed that. Arrival was sick. Yeah, a lot of people love Arrival. What's Lord of the Rings? Well, Evie, there was this man in Britain who's sometimes pronounced Tolkien or Tolkien,
who read a lot of Indian
mythology and lore and thought, you know what, I can do that too, and then started writing this book.
And yes, by the way,
I do say Sean Bean all the time. Yeah, because I love him very, very much. And we're on a first name basis. Nope, you did not mishear it. I call him Sean Bean. Station 11, make great use of its 10 hours or so. Always love that. I don't think I've seen good. Just watched the extended versions. The one GTK book I read seemed, yeah, I would agree with that. I'm reading Tigana in April, so I am excited to see if that's how I feel about it. I don't think about things in terms of character driven versus whatever. Every book does things different, and I want to go in with a predisposition. I agree. I just think it's interesting if you tend to notice a pattern of what you like more so. Like I've noticed since reading Abercrombie that I'm less concerned with overall plot and I'm more concerned as to what's happening specifically with my characters, and that it makes sense. He wouldn't know. He's not familiar with that sensation. Moving on. Feel free to answer Kyle, who's wrong on absolutely everything.
at the risk to my personal well-being, Kyle, you are absolutely wrong on everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is why Kyle is my frenemy and not my friend Kyle. Hope you heard that. Revoke having you on my channel 2 days ago or whatever it was.
Go delete the video.
Which of your favorite books is the least adaptable? Interesting question.
I think there's sort of two aspects to this. There's what is least adaptable, as you're sure asking it, based on the book itself and the plot and the characters. There's also the least adaptable of, this is so perfect as is. Don't touch it. Don't ever ruin it with an adaptation. For me, I would say that for the latter of that, don't ever touch Lines of Alverson.
That was also going to be mine.
But for least adaptable, I think it would be tough to adapt. I don't know. That's a stumper.
Think about it. I simultaneously want this to be adapted, but simultaneously think it's going to have problems, and that will be Stormlight Archive, just because some of the moments will be so amazing to see, but so much of it I think will be really difficult to convey from the book to screen.
I have my answer for least adaptable series is Wheel of Time.
You are not a pariah. You're just a ghoul in the chat. I would agree that Piranesi is not adaptable. I completely agree. As a TV junkie, I also find it really interesting. I agree that it would be really fascinating to get into the nitty gritty of how you can adapt things. One of the things that I've been really curious about is if they're going to adapt First Law, which I hope they do in many ways, but so much of it is rooted in that internal monologue. And I'm curious as to how they will convey that. That for me will be a really big point of interest.
And it's going to be a point of contention for me, just because
Yes.
that is something you better get it right.
Oh yeah, if you don't have that Sandag Octa internal monologue going, it would be hard. I love Piranesi.
From what I know of Piranesi, it seems like the adaptation, if it's true to the book, or even relatively true to the book, would have to be targeted at an audience that probably is not going to be. It's not going to be a big box office hit.
What book do you not have current plans to read in the relatively immediate future, but are excited to read?
Is it Malazan for you?
I have to think about it. Maybe Robin Hobb.
I think it might be Malazan for me.
Yeah.
Just because it seems that it's just a different type of book, and it's not going to be read soon, but when I get to it, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like it still made sense, Evie. You're fine. Yeah, I know. I know that Joe is working closely with him. I feel like of all of the books that I've read so far, it makes sense that they would start with Besser Cole, just in terms to give it a feeler, because it's a revenge story.
It's an easy story.
I mean, it's an easy one to kind of do. So I hope that it would work out well. So I believe Tim Miller. Yeah, I mean, I think it would work, especially if he's working so closely with Abercrombie. That's what his best adaptation is, though. It's The Shawshank Redemption, without question, because that is just S tier. I think it would be really interesting if they wanted to do it like that. The book I just read, The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell, when I was talking to Joanna and Jimmy about this, we thought that would make a really interesting miniseries, because the chapters were specific voice POVs, and we thought if you did it as a miniseries, each episode would be the focus of the POV, and that would basically be it. But of course, they're all connected, so we thought that would kind of.
I miss also something that's like, I would like them to adapt something that's a mystery, but like, I don't know. Just for example, the movie Memento back in the day, which you didn't quite, as a viewer, I thought the movie was good.
It was excellent.
But you didn't quite know what was going on. And like, as a viewer, you're trying to piece it together too. And I wish there was more stuff like that out there.
Green Mile is good. I still personally prefer Shawshank, but I think that is also an acceptable answer. Yeah, it's Piranesi for me. It would be one that I would just leave, because I think it's perfect the way that it is. But yeah, there's so many options. This is part of the thing when you're in the fantasy genre, and I feel like maybe this applies to lit fic a little bit too, but more so for me for fantasy than anything else. I'm like, oh, this would be so great in cinematic form. When you get to those really epic moments, I'm like, oh my God, this is
as long as I'm the director, I'm the producer, I'm the casting director.
I've written the script, everything looks exactly how it should in my brain. It will be a 10 out of 10. Excellent. But I don't know. Have you read a scene ever that you thought, oh yeah, this scene I would want to see adapted? And I think that would be really great.
As down to a specific scene?
Yeah.
Oof. Yes, as a matter of fact, the prologue to the first book of Wheel of Time.
Oh,
which
yes, so
was done with Billy Zane when
it sure was,
Fox
guys.
needed to produce something or else lose the rights to it. So they last second put out a 20-minute thing with Billy Zane.
And it's great.
As Luz Theron and it's the prologue to
Wheel of Time. Someone actually on YouTube went and edited that down to about 8 minutes, and it's so good.
Much better, because it was a bit draggy, shall we say.
I feel for me, the ending of Lions, like the last epic scene of Lions, I was like, oh, I can see this. I feel like it would be such an epic scene. Oh, and so good. Everyone should go read Lions of Oliver Stone. Yeah. Pretty much. It's the one big thing. Yes, I saw that. Yep. Did see that, but yeah, it's good. I'm trying to think if there's like any other series here. I want you to read The Lies of Locke Lamora, because I just read that and I think you'll like it.
We have our Sanderson self.
We do, which Josh won't really touch. So
Cornwell, 2/3 of the shelf.
We do, yep. Oh, and I want us to read N.K. Jemisin. That's something that I think both of us will read. Favorite plays? That's a great question.
Cymbeline.
It is Cymbeline
by Shakespeare.
Josh. Yeah,
I love that play, and it doesn't. I don't think it fits into any of the big like tragedy, comedy, romance. I just thought it was a really fun play.
I love Medea, and the Bacchae. So if you what?
And Les Mis.
Les Mis is great, but I love a lot of ancient plays. Liza Lockmore is also awesome. I agree. A Doll's House and Kate Jefferson is the go. Yes. I agree. I honestly, when I was reading it, I thought the exact same thing. I'm reading. Never seen it.
I have not heard of that.
I have not heard of it either. So Kyle, spread the word about what it is, and give us a breakdown because I would be curious. We haven't read many plays in the last few years. I feel like we have Shakespeare's completed works here, and we went through it a few years ago. But other than that,
looking for a baby name.
Yeah, we did. Hot tip: we didn't find one. But
our baby's not named Cressida.
No, she's not. But we haven't really. I don't like modern plays for the most part.
I would say
like Arthur Miller and I don't jive.
It's funny you say that because I was about to say I would say Arthur Miller is about where that's the cutoff for me.
No. Yep. Oh my God, 5th season. I just said The Price is Right.
Oh, Othello.
Othello.
Oh, I saw when I was a kid. I saw Othello in Washington D.C. and they switched. Usually Othello is played or portrayed as Muslim, and everyone else is white. They switched it so that Patrick Stewart played Othello, and all the other actors were actors of color, including Ron Canada playing Iago, who was better than Patrick Stewart somehow. But that was probably the best single play I've ever seen because those two just were two of the best actors I've ever watched.
I haven't been to actually many plays. Like I used to go to Shakespeare in the Park as a kid, and then I went to all of the plays my university put on for the antiquities department. But other than that, I feel like it's been Broadway stuff, which is musicals, which is not quite the same thing. We are going to see a musical next week, so I am excited. It's about a city with 12 ruling families competing for power. The main characters are a thief hired to assassinate a king, a grave robber. I'm in. Send me the info of this because I want to read it. Oh no. I feel like play-wise though, that's kind of I tap out after the year like 1700
BC.
That's right. Not quite, but I would think after Les Mis, I'm done. In terms of, well, that's not even really a play.
That's true.
It's a book.
It's so Othello or Cymbeline.
There you go. I guess so. Any other things you want to let the people of the YouTube know about you?
The YouTube.
The YouTube. It's like the code, as my mother-in-law loves to say. Hi, Angela, if you're watching.
I just really enjoy chatting with you guys because it's a lot of fun to talk about something that takes something intelligent. Frankly, it's just it's rare to find a group of people that want to talk about books and plots and characters and authors. And I'm really enjoying my time listening to BookTube and the occasions that I get to be on BookTube.
Ah, yes. Josh, what is the best way to meet a woman? World of Warcraft.
Yes, absolutely.
Or just awkwardly speaking to them, I guess, can work too.
Yeah.
I mean,
clearly. Or should I tell the story about the
soccer ball? 100%.
So when I was at college, a friend and I went to the gym at like midnight, and this woman, two women were there, one of whom I had a big crush on. And so the four of us decided to play 2-on-2 like midnight soccer in the gym just for the fun of it. And at one point, I had a clear shot on goal, and I stink at soccer. I can't play it at all. And I crushed that ball straight at goal, and it went 90 degrees to my left and smashed her right in the face. So I would recommend, if you want to meet a woman, not kicking a soccer ball in her face.
It's one of my favorite stories.
Which for me, that's like the 7th most. That's probably like a mid success in terms of flirting for me.
Yeah, Josh is a very awkward individual, but it's, I guess, worked out in the long run, so it's not the worst thing ever. But yes, that's basically how I agree on it. Having worked in some pit orchestra gigs, it fascinates me that plays and productions get put together to begin with. The sheer amount of time, talent. I agree.
What is your role in the pit orchestra?
Yeah. And that's how I met your mother.
That's why your mother's nose.
It's not me. Yeah, it's so cute. Who doesn't love being impaled by a soccer ball at lightning speed in the face?
The moral of the story is
so good.
let the other team win.
Yeah, clearly let the other team win. Don't kick someone in the face. That's basically it. But no, share your interests, I guess, would be the main thing of not kicking each other in the face.
Talk about GGK and Abercrombie and all our other favorites.
World of Warcraft and
World of Warcraft.
A Song of Ice and Fire. I will try my very best to find Josh a Pitbull t-shirt, if it exists. Nice.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I don't know. We didn't watch this. I demand it. I mean, Evie, that works for me. Or I might just print a picture of Pitbull and like tape it.
This is not going to happen.
Bass clarinet for the win. We also played instruments, but we were not cool.
I am a regretful violin player that wished I played the cello.
If it won. Exactly. Gotta run. See you, Brian. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, we'll be sure to check it out. Which one are you laughing at? This one? Yeah. Journeying late, reading Priest of Bones. Wow, it's grim dark, but so good. The language does not faze us. Despite how infrequently I curse on here, I curse quite regularly at home. So, which is technically my home, but when I'm talking to the internet, I don't curse. The internet, all of the internet. I don't curse as much as I do, so that really doesn't faze me. And language doesn't really bother you.
Language doesn't. No, it's certain things that occur in plots by certain authors in particular have irked me.
That doesn't sit well.
Especially when it's anti-women stuff. There's a few authors I won't, since it's a love bomb, I won't mention them, but there's a few authors who are notoriously misogynistic, and I hope all their stuff burns.
Not to be dramatic about it, but
don't put that out there then.
I agree with this completely. I just didn't want to deal with it, so I have pretty much stopped cursing. Name names.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Murray. Thank you. Our cat is rubbing the camera here. Thank you.
Evie, I will name names directly to you since it's a love bomb.
Yeah. But if you guys have any final questions for Josh, because we've been here for almost an hour and 40 minutes and I'm still sick. I need to go to sleep.
You're also
soon. Well, he moved this,
I know.
So
well,
I can't help
it. It's your okay.
Exactly. This is our family swears, so this is just kind of how it is for us. But I know
not around
for every people. No, we're not like that with our kiddo. But
we're trying to keep it clean around her.
Yeah, the cat has decided he's hungry.
Yeah, he decides an hour before it's dinner time that he's hungry.
Exactly. You are very welcome. Thank you for stopping by. What is your next book purchase going to be?
I would say that likely it's going to be the last few GGK books that we don't have, or the Dagger and Coin. The rest of
I got you all those.
Oh, the
LPQ.
It's going to likely be the rest of that series. Laura bought me the first book of that, which I I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna love. So I'll probably just go ahead and buy all of them the second I finish that one.
In terms of what he is being fed, literally everything he can get his hands on, he's a menace. So, and by his hands, I mean his mouth. He just grabs it and he runs. So, I swear a lot in my head. Yeah, exactly. I hear you.
All my swearing is work related.
Yeah, that's probably true. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that I've given my final thoughts of being enjoying the chat with people about some topics that you usually don't get to talk about elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was Mr. Fantasy Awash joining finally for a live. So now,
by the way, you said that there was a poll on your site that said and you said, oh, I dominated the poll. I looked at it. The poll wasn't me versus other people. The poll was just me or eh.
Yeah.
That's not a poll.
The only person that voted no was Kyle.
And me.
So there you go. Josh also vetoed. See you, Kyle. Thank you all for tuning in on your. Yes, you did. I thought you said no. Well, at least you commented no. I guess the only no was you then. But there you go.
No's.
I don't think so. It was kind of accidental. Yeah, he's a menace. This is great. Yes. We'll have to get that working together. If it was an accident. We'll see, Kyle. I can't trust you anymore after all of your malicious content and banter in this chat. Thank you, Evie. I thought I'd ask the cat a question. We appreciate it. Thank you. See you, Daniel. Bye, John. Bye, ZK. But if you're new here, you can hit like and subscribe. If you're catching us on a replay, you can let us know what you've been reading lately or watching and really liking. Or if you have any lingering questions for Josh, you can hover in the chat after and answer them for you. But as always, we appreciate you spending your time with us because we know time is valuable. And we hope that you have a great weekend. And we'll see you
enjoy
next
your
time.
Saturday night, or for our friends in Melbourne, Sunday morning.
Sunday morning or anywhere else in the world. But we will see you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.